Serena Williams introduces Maria Sharapova into the International Hall of Fame. Let's hear her speech. Subscribe to our channel for more tennis-related content.
All right, surprise. I know I'm probably the last person you would be expecting to see here tonight, but honestly, a few years ago, I probably would have said the same thing. But here's how it happened. A few months ago, Maria texted me that she needed to talk, and so I thought, uh-oh, what's going in, what's going down? Like, where do I need to jump in? What do I need to do, right? But when I called her, she asked me if I would introduce her into the Hall of Fame. And before she even finished her question, I said yes, loud, immediately, with my whole chest, because of course, it's Maria. I was honored. Now let's be real. Maria and I were once the fiercest of rivals. We had our differences. To the world, we looked miles and miles apart. But the truth is, we weren't. We wanted the exact same thing at the exact same time, to be the very best. In our sport, only one person can walk away with the trophy. And what's really wrong with wanting to be your best? Nothing. In fact, it's what drove us. That's what made our rivals so electric and so iconic. In 2004, when Maria was just 17 years old, she stunned the world and won Wimbledon. To this day, she calls it the highlight of her career. And to this day, I call it one of my hardest losses. The match didn't just make her a champion, it actually made her a star. It launched one of the most talked about and controversial rivals in tennis. For more than a decade and a half, every time we faced each other, the atmosphere shifted. It was thick, the tension was real, the fire was real, and honestly, you can feel it. And, by the way, you could hear it with all Maria's grunting. No, not mine, yours. I was just copying you. But behind all that fire, there was something else. Even though we didn't talk about it, maybe we really couldn't back then, we really respected each other immensely. Because to survive at the very top of the sport, you need resilience, you need toughness, and you need to show up every single day, year after year. And Maria did just that. There are only a few players in my career who challenged me to be the very best every single time we stepped out on the court. Maria Sharapova was one of them. Whenever I saw her name next to mine in the draw, I made sure I practiced harder. Okay, security? I have a heckler here. I focused more and I showed up with my A game, because whatever her weakness was the match before, you better believe that was her strength the next time. She was relentless about improving. I remember once running her left and then right and then left and then right and then left again, and she just refused to give in, and she went for everything. When the point was over, I finally looked over to see if I had tired her out, but nothing, completely poised. If you didn't know better, you would have thought I was the one doing all the running at that point. And honestly, the next point I probably was. She had this fierce, never give up attitude, never surrender, that always kept you on your toes. And I can't tell you how many times I was in the locker room watching her down a set in a break, because I would have to play after her. And instead of warming up for my own match, I would literally just sit down, I would look at my coach, and I would say, we're in for a long one, because Maria would come back every single time. She never quit. She never gave up. Of course, I was mad I had to wait so long. More than once I wanted to tell Maria, just win in straight sets. You know you're gonna win anyway, so just do it already. Why are you torturing us out here? But that was Maria. She was fierce, determined, uncompromising. She made you earn every single point. So let me back up and kind of address a little bit more the elephant in the room. How did we get here? How did I get her number? Like, how did all this happen? How did we go from the Wimbledon finals to this? Me introducing her to the Hall of Fame. Well, here's a short version. And I think we have Anna Wintour to thank for that. Yes, that Anna Wintour. Every year she hosts this little party called the Met Gala. Maybe you've heard of it. It's one of the most intimidating rooms you'll ever be in. Actors, musicians, designers, influencers, the creme de la creme. Everyone is dazzling, and somehow you still feel underdressed. And here's the thing. If you're an athlete, you eventually find other athletes in the room. And because you know each other and you're on the grind year after year, Maria and I found ourselves at the same tables, at the same events, and talking to each other a little bit more. And with no Grand Slams match the next day, our guards were down, and little by little, we started to see each other differently. One year was small talk, another year was real conversation, and then one day it just clicked. This person I spent years battling across the net, might we actually like each other? And we did. One time a mutual friend of ours said, if we had met under different circumstances, we'd be great friends. I'm not gonna tell you, it's after hours. You know who that was. Why? Why are you asking me this? And they were right. This mystery person was right, that Maria knows. But let's talk about Maria, the player and person. She was and by the way is, the definition of professionalism. We had a call actually scheduled at 11 o'clock a.m., and she called me at 11 o'clock a.m. It wasn't 11:01, it wasn't 10:59, it was right on time. She's always on time, always focused, always disciplined, right on the dot, always prepared. That's Maria. And when she stepped on the court, she gave absolutely everything she had. It didn't matter if she was playing the world number 1 or the world number 300. She showed up with the same determination every single time. She didn't get caught up in the gossips and the distractions. She wasn't swayed by the headlines. She was there for one reason, to be the best, to win, and to compete. That was Maria. And that's exactly what she became. In 2005, just after 1 year after winning Wimbledon, Maria climbed to world number 1. Think about that, a teenager, less than 18 months removed from her breakthrough, standing on top of the sport. That takes focus, fearlessness, confidence, which Maria has, and unbelievable discipline to rise that fast. She never let go of that standard, and I always admired that. She went on to win Wimbledon, the US Open, the Australian Open, and eventually she mastered the surface that humbled her most, the clay. In fact, I would always tell myself, give 100% like Maria. Focus, focus, focus. If she can do it, you can. Yes, Maria, you were inspiration to me, and without even knowing it, you always inspired me when I went out there, because I knew if I could just focus like you, I could do well and I could win. So thank you so much for that. Maria's journey on clay simply made me better. Maria once famously said she felt like a cow on ice playing on clay. And I'm sorry, but listen, I did play you before once on clay, and you weren't wrong. But here's the difference. Maria did not accept that as a weakness. Quietly behind the scenes, she made it her single most important mission. She turned her greatest vulnerability into her greatest weapon. She took that legendary mental toughness, the same toughness that she showed every opponent, and she pointed it right at the clay until it gave in. And she conquered it, not once but twice. 2 French Open titles. That's who Maria is. Make your weakness your strength. That's her. That's her legacy. And the more I've gotten to know Maria, the more I realize how much we share. Champions actually always have a lot in common. I once asked her, how does she celebrate her wins? And she looked at me and she said, celebrate? What does that even mean? She was always focused on the next goal, the next title, the next challenge, and honestly, that sounded a little too familiar. And when I asked her if she celebrated her retirement, she shot back, did you? We both laughed because no, we both knew that we both knew that without answering that neither one of us did. Champions do not live in the rearview mirror. We do not look back. We keep going, we keep adapting and thinking about our next win. Champions move forward, champions live in the present. Maria was and is the personification of that. Maria's impact goes far beyond the court. She won 5 Grand Slam titles, as we already know, and that's what we call the career Grand Slam, which is something only a handful of players are able to do. Scroll a little bit, thank you. She became the world #1 at just 18 years old, something I never did, and she held that spot for 21 weeks in her career. Maria won 36 WTA titles, earned over $38 million in prize money, and spent more than a decade ranked inside of the top 10. She was also an Olympic medalist, winning silver at the 2012 Olympic Games. Well, security, please. And beyond the numbers, Maria was the most recognized and admired athletes on the planet. She was the highest paid female athlete in the world for 11 straight years. And she showed us all how to take excellence on the court and turn it into excellence in business and fashion and branding and everything that she touched. She inspired young girls around the globe and inspired them in the world that if she can do it, they can do it too. She could win on the biggest stages, then they could too, and they could conquer new ones. She changed how women not only approached tennis, but sport and opportunity. She showed us that you can be fierce on the court and strategic off the court and unapologetically yourself the entire time. And she always did it with her head high, proud, strong, classy, and yes, with that signature grunt. And today, her biggest joy isn't only a trophy, it's her son Theodore. She's taken that same focus, that same fire, and poured it into being a mom, a great mom, steady, calm, and thoughtful. She actually reminds me a lot of Venus, and the more I get to know her, the more I think about the things we share and we can share in the future. Maria's honest, she gets to the point quickly, she's earnest, she's loyal, she's family-oriented, and at her core, she's just a great person. If I didn't know her better, I think she could have been my sister, the yin to my yang, the calm to my storm. So don't be surprised when I'm calling her with all the dramas in my life, because that's what sisters do. So what started as a rivalry turned into an enormous amount of respect. And what grew from respect has turned to friendship. And like I said, champions adjust. Maria didn't just win matches, she built a legacy that will last forever. Last year, I asked Maria to be my tennis ball. And I think this is her way of saying yes. So tonight is my honor as her former rival, her former fan, and now her forever friend, and one of the world's greatest sports heroes of all times and champions, to welcome Maria Sharapova into the International Tennis Hall of Fame. Congratulations.